Every single person in professional basketball doubted Jalen Brunson, at least once.
It's a chance to bounce it, and nails the three.
Most of them doubted him twice. You watching this video were probably one of them at some point. Too small, too slow, too dependent on his father's name, not athletic enough for the league, a nice player, a role player, but never, ever a franchise cornerstone. Never the guy a city hangs its championship hopes on. That was the verdict. Well, they were all wrong.
So you can't stay at that level. Brunson,
What you are about to watch is not a feel-good story about a guy who got lucky. 33 picks. That's how many players got chosen before him. 32 front offices got it wrong in the same draft. By the end of this video, you will understand that Jalen Brunson was never an underdog. He was just a storm nobody bothered to track until it was already on top of them.
Jalen Brunson's first shot of his finals career goes down.
The setting is Edison, New Jersey, 1996. Jalen Brunson is born into a basketball family, which sounds like an advantage until you understand what it actually means. His father, Rick Brunson, played 8 seasons in the NBA, but he wasn't your Hall of Famer. Rather, he played all his career as a survivor. A backup point guard who fought for roster spots, who moved from city to city, who understood the game at a level most players never reach because he had to outthink everyone just to stay employed. That little piece of commentary summed up Rick's professional career, but it wasn't all gloom. Something massive came out of all of this, and that's the reason for our video. Jalen grew up in locker rooms, grew up around professional athletes, practice facilities, film sessions. He absorbed basketball the way other kids absorb cartoons. Passively, constantly, without even realizing it was happening. By the time he was old enough to play organized basketball, he already thought like a veteran. But here is where the doubt enters the story for the first time. Because growing up as an NBA player's son doesn't earn you respect in basketball, and this is true both for the guys with big careers and then the other guys. It earns you a target. Every gym Jalen walked into, there was someone waiting to prove that he was just a name, that the talent was borrowed, that without Rick Brunson's connections and access, Jalen Brunson was nothing special. He heard it so often it almost became background noise. Almost. But what those people didn't understand, what they couldn't see yet, was that the doubt was building something. And by the time he got to college, that something had a name.
Jalen Brunson!
Jay Wright's Villanova Wildcats were not a program that produced NBA stars in the sense of it. Most of their graduates were winners, the orthodox, disciplined, selfless, system-first players who understood that basketball is a team sport and acted accordingly. Jalen Brunson fit in immediately, which, to the outside world, meant he disappeared. He was good. Everyone agreed he was good. But the national conversation about NBA prospects in college basketball wasn't centered on Villanova point guards. The market was concentrated more on one-and-done 5-stars at Kentucky and Duke. Brunson was an afterthought in the draft conversation, a solid college player who would probably have a nice career somewhere in the second round. Then 2016 happened. Now Brunson wasn't the star of that show. The crown belonged to Chris Jenkins, but Brunson was a freshman on that championship team. Watching, learning, understanding what it felt like to win when everything was on the line. Most freshmen in that situation are overwhelmed by the moment. Brunson was taking notes. 2 years later, he came back and did it again, except this time, he was the moment.
Jalen Brunson off the glass.
The 2018 NCAA tournament. Villanova on another championship run, and Brunson was the engine. Most outstanding player. The best player in college basketball that March, by a distance that wasn't even debatable. That sentence said everything, Jenkins paving way for the new king of the coast. In the end, Brunson finished with 2 national championships, easily making it one of the most decorated college careers in recent memory. And still, the draft boards had him projected late in the first round, maybe second round. And it was the same old gist. Too small, not athletic enough to translate. A college star who would struggle against professional length and speed.
Somehow way off balance, an awkward-looking shot, but...
The Dallas Mavericks took him 33rd overall in 2018. 33rd. And that pick, that laughably low pick,
the Dallas Mavericks select Jalen Brunson from Villanova University.
Was about to become one of the most embarrassing miscalculations in recent draft history. But not yet. First, Brunson had one more round of doubt to survive. The Mavericks had Luka Doncic, which meant they had the present, the future, and every conversation in between already spoken for. Brunson arrived in Dallas as a backup point guard behind one of the most gifted players the league had seen in a generation. Again, background noise. Again, an afterthought.
As Brunson outside.
He didn't have a lot to do, but when he did get called upon, he was delivering his bid in the simplest way he could. While Luka is getting the covers and the endorsements and the highlight packages, Brunson is in the gym, developing the mid-range, expanding the pull-up, building the floater package that will later become one of the most unguardable weapons in the NBA. All this quietly, methodically, with the patience of someone who has been told to wait his turn his entire life. The 2022 playoffs arrived. Luka Doncic went down with an injury in the first round against Utah, and Jalen Brunson, the backup, the afterthought, Rick Brunson's son, went for 28, 41, 32, and 35 points in consecutive playoff games, carrying Dallas through the first round almost single-handedly. Brunson had one mission in that insane 2022 run, and that was to do everything they said he couldn't. Too small, too weak. Okay, explain this basket against 6'4" O'Neal. The basketball world finally looked up, and what they saw should have been obvious years earlier, except nobody had been paying close enough attention. But that was just chapter 1 of this story. His time at the Mavericks came to an end. So cue the next chapter. The New York Knicks signed Jalen Brunson in the summer of 2022. $104 million over 4 years, and even then, even after the Dallas playoffs, even after 2 national championships, even after everything, the reaction in New York was cautious at best. He was good without Luka, but can he really be the guy? But we gotta say the truth. Madison Square Garden has a history of eating players alive. The pressure, the media, the fan base that has been waiting 27 years for something real. It has broken better-equipped players than a 6-foot point guard from New Jersey. But Brunson turned the Garden into his living room, and the pressure into the exact fuel he had been running on his entire career. First season, 24 points a game, Knicks in the playoffs.
Drives inside and floats it up and in. Now he's starting to get the feel.
In this particular game against the Nets, Brunson lost the brakes and delivered a crazy 30 points in the first half alone. Second season, better. The Knicks were getting better too. The belief was everywhere. He put on a regular season show for the decades. And then, the playoffs, where Jalen Brunson has always been at his most dangerous, where the moment gets biggest and the doubt gets loudest, and he has spent his entire life learning exactly what to do with both. 4 consecutive 40-point playoff games were what this man from New Jersey had to his name. A statement. A man standing in the brightest spotlight in basketball, in the most demanding city in the world, and simply refusing to blink. This particular game, he landed 47 points. It's one thing to land 47 points in this modern era where probably the total points tally was over 250, but to do it in a game where both teams scored under 100 points. I'm not bluffing when I say that is Michael Jordan level stuff. But at last, we need to come out of the Brunson context and look at his team. Something was still missing in this chapter too. New York hadn't been to the NBA Finals since 1999. It had been 27 years of hurt, 27 years of near misses and bad contracts and broken promises, and now a 6-foot point guard from Edison, New Jersey was the reason the drought was ending. The championship arrived the way Brunson's entire career had arrived, with grit, with the quiet confidence of someone who had been told no so many times that yes felt like the only language left. Rick Brunson, the man whose name Jalen had been running from and running toward his entire life, was there, watching his son hold the trophy that his own career had always been one roster spot away from. They said he was too small. He built an empire anyway.